Happy Guru Purnima, and it's a very auspicious occasion. Of course, the trend being online, we are interacting with each other in an online format. So, in the next 45 minutes or so, I thought it would be a very good opportunity to share how Bhagwan plays or continues to play the role of a guru in my life, and I'm sure you will be able to very easily associate with it because he plays the role of the guru in each one of our lives. So let me get started straight away and permit me to share just a few slides that I have. There are nothing, there is no text on the slides, just some pictures for you to see because that would be better than seeing my face. So let me share my slide. So once again, I'll request, one of you to just confirm, Brother Vinod, if you can
Sir,
confirm.
yes, sir, we can see, sir.
Yes, wonderful. So this is my very first opening slide, and the temptation of being a teacher is so strong that I cannot resist asking questions. So let me just ask you one thing. In this slide, obviously we see Bhagwan Baba, who is our Sadguru, the Guru of all Gurus, our master is seen here. But very interestingly, the role of a guru, what is the real purpose of a guru, as Bhagwan mentions and as our scriptures say, is also visible in this slide. So I just want one of you to just kindly highlight what is the, okay, we see Bhagwan in this slide, but where do we see the role of a guru in this slide? Can anybody just take a second off and just, please, does anything strike to you when you see this picture on the screen?
Remove the curtain of ignorance so that God can be seen.
Oh, fantastic. I knew all of you would say that. That's perfectly right. You can see, when this is today's photo, in fact, and when I saw this, I felt it is so relevant. The two Sevadals are actually removing the curtain. And Bhagavan says this is precisely the role of a guru in a life, to remove the curtain of subjectivity, the curtain of a wrong understanding, the curtain of lack of clarity, and if you will, the word that we always use, the curtain of illusion. So actually, we are unable to perceive creation the way it should be, and the main role of a guru is to remove this so-called veil which covers our seeing so that we get the right vision. So that's why I chose this picture as the very first one. So, when does a guru come into our life? So let me quickly take you back to 1994. And, this was the Kodaikanal visit in 1994. And Swami mentioned something very interesting. And, among all my notes in the diary, this really stands out. One evening, Swami was actually explaining to all of us about creation and how the creation actually, took place. And at that point, Swami sort of got into a very nice describing mode. And this is what Bhagavan said. I'm putting it in my words. Swami said that God wanted his beings, when he said human beings are not separate from God, they are his own sparks. So he wanted these sparks of himself to enjoy creation. And so Swami said he created this whole beautiful world, such a wonderful world, with all attractions and beautiful pleasures and happiness and joy. And, he said, enjoy this world. That's what, he told the human beings, enjoy, not only human beings, all the beings, animals, species, every species that you can conceive of, enjoy this world as much as you want. And Swami went on and he said, I'm giving you total freedom, total democracy. God will never interfere at all. But typically when Swami says something like that, something is going to come at the end. So at the end, Swami said, Kani, there was a big but there. Swami said, but remember, whatever you do will come back to you. So he laid down this beautiful operating system of action reaction. And that is where, we all get caught up in the world, because if this wasn't there, perhaps we would have got lost in creation, enjoying the pleasures and doing all sorts of things and completely forgetting that there is a higher purpose to the whole thing. But given this fact of action reaction, sooner or later, we realize that the world is really not a bed of roses, because it's full of ups and downs. And there are pleasures, but there are pains. There is happiness, but then there is also sorrow. There is success, so there is also victory. So, at some point, we all, I hope you can see the slide which I'm showing you now of this guy who is really down and is really thinking, oh my God, why have I come here? Why did God create me? What is the purpose of creation, right? So this is where we all reach this point. uh, Sorry, yeah, can you still see the screen? Can any one of you confirm, is the screen
Yes, sir.
visible?
We are able
Yes,
to
sir.
see
Okay,
the
yeah.
screen and
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. Because I just did some change here, so I was concerned. So we all reach a point, where like this guy, we also are worried. We are, sort of caught up in this whole worldly pursuit, and we start asking ourselves, is this all? Or is there something more? Is this all, or is there something more? And Bhagwan says, this is exactly the time that the Guru comes into our life. And the surprising thing, what Bhagwan says is, we don't have to ask for a Guru. The Guru is waiting to come into our life. Swami is waiting to send somebody as a Guru. Of course, in our case, it's completely different because he himself came as our Guru. So he is waiting for this opportune moment when our mind is tired of, going through this worldly pursuit, enjoying the world, going through these ups and downs, roller coaster. And finally, at some point, our mind asks, why all this? And that's when the Guru enters our life. As I mentioned, Guru could be anybody. It could be in fact, in Sandeha Nivarani, Bhagwan clarifies that the Guru can be even a book. It can be scriptures. It can be a friend. It could be a parent. It could be a teacher. It could be an actual spiritual Guru or a spiritual master. And of course, in our case, we have been extremely fortunate because Swami, the avatar himself, the ultimate Godhood himself came down as our Guru. So once Swami comes as a Guru, what is it that he really does? I'm sure that we all came to Swami's fold, wherever in Vrindavan or in Prashanti Nilayam. You know what Swami does? The first thing he does is he puts us onto the path of inquiry. The first thing it does is puts us into the path of inquiry. Since most of you listening to this session are alumni, I'm sure you'll appreciate that sitting in the mandir over there in those years, the typical questions, which Swami would sort of use as an icebreaker with students or with devotees is, where do you come from? Who are you? What is your name? All very, very fundamental. You can take it at a very gross level, as though Swami is asking about the geographical location you're coming from or about your physical name. But at the same time, there is a fundamental spirit behind it. Swami is reminding us that there is something you've forgotten. Who are you? Where have you really come from? What is your name? And it goes on like this. So this is how my introduction to Swami also happened in 1990 when I came. The first thing I attended was a summer course. It was the beginning of a new phase of summer course in Vrindavan. We came back to Prashanti Nilayam, and there in the portico I would often hear Swami asking these questions, and I very soon understood that this is what Swami has called us for. There is something beyond what we perceive as this world, which Swami wants us to really understand. So what happens, right? The first phase, according to me, I have actually sort of tried to distribute my talk in three parts. So part one is where Swami helps us to understand that he is not just a human body, he is not just a form whose darshan we have in the mandir, but he is right within us. So the first part, the first lesson, strong lesson that I'm sure all of you will agree he wanted us to learn was Swami is actually within us. Now, how did this lesson become clear to me? Of course, there would be many occasions. As an MBA student, I have sat in the mandir with a letter, and there are occasions where Swami, even without taking the letter, has sort of alluded to what I had written in it. And all this would set me introspecting. How is it Swami knows? Okay, we may say God is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, but what is the mechanism of it? How is it that Swami knows what is really going on inside my mind? So many times he would actually reflect exactly what is going on what is currently going on, in real time. Swami would reflect, and then, it slowly started getting clear to me that the Swami I'm seeing outside and the something which is inside me appears to be the same. And therefore, the conclusion is that, oh, Swami is within me. But how can Swami be within me? So naturally, it is not the physical form of Swami. So it is the energy, it is the cosmic energy which is, animating that body, and my body perhaps is the same. And then, Swami gives you so many examples of the electric current flowing in all the bulbs, how it is one and the same, and so on and so forth. Now, let me come to one experience of mine which sort of very strongly reinforced this truth that Swami is in me. So, you all know, some of you who have been in the earlier years and have studied in Prashanti Nilayam, we all are very familiar with Professor Bhagia, one of our favorite teachers. And you all know that, you all in the sense, all those who have studied MBA and even other students in those days would know, Sir would very emphatically, insist that all the students really spend some time in self-reflection, in trying to connect to Swami. And he would always, sort of emphasize on the fact that though we do spend some time on the academic, we need to spend perhaps, if not the same, some time on our spiritual growth. So I remember in my first year of MBA, this came so heavily on me, and I took it so seriously that, I would go near the Ganesha temple in Prashanti Nilayam in our campus. I would sit there and I would sit in silence and really try and understand, Swami, please explain to me, how is it you're within me? How is it that you're within me? I also used to learn the Vedas, and if you know, in Narayan Suktam, it explains that though, Bhagwan is actually infinite, okay, he's everywhere, omnipresent, but still it is possible to identify this cosmic I in a limited way, in a very illusory limited way, within our own body. It is like, Bhagwan talking about the air inside the balloon and outside the balloon. So, in Narayan Suktam, actually it says that you can feel the I, somewhere near your physical heart, the I emanates from there. Ramana Maharishi also talks a lot about it. And therefore, I used to sit and I used to really reflect and try to, connect to that I which is within my body, because I was convinced by then that that I and Swami is one and the same. So this happened for a couple of months, I guess, and this was in 1990. This was in 1991. Okay, June, July, and then came the month of August, and I remember it was 18th of August to be very precise, when I got my very first interview with Swami. And I mean, many more things happened. That itself is a beautiful experience, but I will just stick to the relevant part here, which is pertinent to this. So this was a particular interview where the Vice Chancellor, Registrar, and the Controller were there. And there were 4 of us students, because we had given a particular talk in the foyer. Swami was so happy with it, and so he had called us in. That was the context. Anyway, that apart, what happened in this interview was, since it was the very first time, it was an interview for me, and I was seeing Swami inside the interview room, and it had been my intense desire to be with Swami. 1 year of MBA was already over. I was in my second year. And so suddenly this thought came to me that if only I could pray to Swami physically and tell him, Swami, I want to be with you. I mean, this was all my desire. I wanted to tell him, but given our own inhibitions and our own apprehensions, I was feeling shy to open up this topic and suddenly blurt this out in front of Swami in the presence of all the administrators. So a thought occurred to me that, Swami, if after the interview is over, when we are moving out, if it can so happen that I will be the last person in the room to go out, it will be so nice, Swami, because then it will be a one-on-one, one-to-one between us, and very courageously, without any hesitation, I will be able to make my prayer to you. So this was my intense prayer, and actually strategically, sort of position myself in such a place And more, even as the interview was going on, my thought was on the end of the interview that how can I place myself in such a way that I will be the last person to go. Thankfully, it is divine grace. It happened that way. And, the three vice chancellor, registrar, and controller, obviously, they moved out first. And then among the four of us who were there, I allowed, just to give you a sort of graphic imagery of how the scene was. Please visualize the interview room in Prashanti Nilayam. Swami is standing behind the door. He has just opened the door and he would stand behind the door and then he would signal to each one saying, you go. So each one would come, take Pad Namaskar, and then they would go out. So from outside, people cannot see Swami because Swami is standing behind the door. So this is precisely what happened, and the three administrators moved out, and then of course one by one we were moving out, and I was last in the line. So I was very eagerly and intensely waiting, and the moment it was one, and the second person moved out, and the third person was moving out, my heart was beating really fast because this is something I had imagined should happen, and it was actually happening. I couldn't believe my eyes. And when the third person moved out, I thought this was my master plan in my mind that I will just kneel down, take namaskar, tell Swami, Swami, I want to be with you, please keep me with you, and then move. But to my utter amazement, to my utter, I would say even shock, the moment the third student went out and I was alone in the interview room, Swami just shut the door. I was really perplexed. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect this. And honestly, to tell you, brothers, I'm sure those of you who have experienced it will know when you're one-to-one, face-to-face with Swami, oh my God, it's so loving, but it's also very frightening, right, for the first time. So I was like, oh my God, and I just dropped down on my knees and I was looking up like this. Swami is looking into my eyes. I'm looking into his eyes. And it's like a laser beam. He was just peering through my eyes and I was dumbfounded. So though this was what I actually prayed for, I could have just opened my mouth and told Swami, I want to be with you. Nothing came out of my mouth. I just sat there looking into his eyes and he was deeply looking into my eyes. And Swami told me this. Swami told me in Tamil, right? And that too, the Tamil that I speak at home, which is not very Shuddha Tamil, but that is exactly the way Swami spoke to me, which is again, a proof of how he is not different from us. He told me, and I'll tell you in English, he said, I know everything. I mean, these words were very powerful. They were not just told like a sentence. Swami sort of stressed on each word. He said, I know everything. And then he said, make it a habit. So I was confused. I said, Swami, what is this? Make it a habit. I mean, you know everything, fine, thank you. I mean, that's a great confirmation for me because all along, unless Swami tells you, it doesn't become such a concrete experience. But what does this make it a habit? So suddenly in my mind, there are a lot of thoughts going on and I'm so confused. I said, what is Swami referring to? Oh my God, I mean, how should I respond? And believe me, all this is a matter of just a few seconds, okay? It's not a minutes, maybe maximum it's 10 seconds or 12 seconds. There is a flurry of thoughts going on in my mind and then suddenly out of the blue, it strikes me that what is it that Swami wants me to make it a habit? Oh, is it that fact that I'm sitting, every day near the Ganesha and trying to do the self-reflection, silent sitting, and trying to reflect on Swami within me? Is this what perhaps is referring to? The moment this thought came in my mind, the instant, you will not believe it. The moment this thought came in my mind, you see, this is how, it's all real time. Swami outside and Swami inside is not different. He is the thought which is coming, and so he knows what thought has come in my mind. The moment this thought came in my mind, you know what Swami did? He opened the door, he said, go. That's it. Interview over. But then that was a really turning point in my life because Swami confirmed that he knew what I was doing. Not only knew, he is with me. Every thought that is going on inside me is him. And therefore, this strongly, very strongly built a conviction in me that Swami is Though we see him outside as a human form, he is inside me. When I say I am Rangarajan, that I is Swami. This became very strong. So this I would call it as part one of the movie. The first phase of a guru is when the guru comes into our life, he removes the first curtain and says, I am inside you. There is no guru outside. And today, of course, there is no choice also because the physical form has left us. So the guru who is really there is not any guru outside. We don't need any spiritual master outside. Though if we have one, it's not wrong because the I in him is also Swami. So ultimately, it is Swami who is this guru for everybody, right? Whatever the external name may be or whatever the name of the deity in whom we believe may be, ultimately it is only one. It is only I. That is the first experience Bhagwan gave me, but I'm, sort of narrating only one representative experience, but there were many things which happened which strengthened the conviction in me that Swami is inside me. So this is part one, okay? So before I move to part two, can somebody confirm whether my audio and video is clear? Because at my end, it's very difficult. I really don't know what's happening. So if somebody can say yes, I will continue.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely clear.
Okay, great. Thank you. So then comes part two of the movie. Okay, there are no intervals in this picture, so it goes on seamlessly. So this is part two of the movie, and I hope you can see the next slide that I have put. So you may guess why I have put this slide and how is it different from the previous one. The previous one had just one individual sitting over there, and I'm able to see the light. Basically light means when we understand Swami is within me, that's it. That is the light. There is no real light emanating from us, right? But that is Swami. So now I have moved to the next slide, which shows so many people there. So what was this experience? This was the next rung of the ladder. Okay, one veil is removed. Now Swami goes to remove the next veil. So what is the second curtain which our Guru removes? Okay, please try and associate it with your own experiences with Swami. Though the mechanics may be different, the permutation combinations may be different. Essentially, this is what he's doing to all of us, because this is the purpose of a guru, to remove the curtain, to remove the veil and show us reality as it is. In fact, it's the most scientific thing, because science says what is real alone should be believed, and that's exactly what a guru does. He says what you're seeing, though you may think it's empirically correct, actually that is also a lie. Our senses are lying to us, right? But because of the sort of concreteness of that experience through your senses, you feel it is true, but I'm telling you it is not. So second curtain which the Guru removes. So this is another experience I would like to narrate. All these are experiences I've narrated before. It's not new, so for some of you it may be a repetition. Now this again happened in the year 1992. No, it was in 1993 or 94. I had already completed my MBA studies and I was a lecturer. And one day there was this announcement, because the super specialty hospital had come into existence. Whenever they would need some blood, they would make an announcement in the hostel, and we would go and whichever students relevant were there, they would go and donate blood. So on one day they announced that they needed O negative blood. So O negative is a very rare group, and luckily I belong to that. And I remember Mr. Suryanarayana, many of you may know Mr. Suryanarayana, who still serves in the hostels as the finance officer. He also was O negative, I remember. So both of us, we didn't want to disturb any students, so the two of us went to the super specialty hospital. So I went there, and that I think was perhaps my first experience of blood donation. Yeah, that was my first experience. Or maybe before I had donated once, I don't remember. So I donated blood. I was very happy, and the nice part is always we look forward to that nice glass of juice they give us at the end of it. So I used to love that. So they had just given me the glass of orange juice in my hand. As I had the first sip, there was an announcement on the public address system that Bhagwan was arriving at the super specialty hospital. Wow, I mean, this is like, as they say, icing on the cake. I said, this is unexpected. And normally we have a fear, oh my God, should I be around here? But that day I had come for a very legitimate reason. So I was ecstatic, otherwise you may feel, oh my God, I should not have been here. I should have been taking class, or, I should have been in the hostel. But that day I was feeling rather really little proud, saying, wow, I have come for some special service. So Swami will be very happy. How nice it will be if we can have Swami's darshan. So, the nurse told us there in the blood bank, they said, sir, you please be seated here. Let's wait and see where Swami is moving, and then you can move. Honestly, we didn't have any expectation that Swami will be able to see, because Swami will be moving about in so many areas of the hospital. So we thought we will just silently move out. But these are experiences Bhagwan wants to give you, and therefore there is nothing else that can happen. It has to materialize. So as we were sitting there, within just 3-4 minutes, suddenly there was a hush and everybody was running around, and they said, Swami is coming to the blood bank. I said, wow, I mean, this is like out of the world. Swami is coming right to the blood bank. Within few seconds, Swami walked in, and it was a real scene. Swami here, those days the young Swami, so he was marching, and then there were these VVIPs behind him, some foreigners, some overseas devotees. Maybe Swami was showing them around. So he came, and he was showing them everything, and I was very visibly seated over the bed there. The moment Swami saw me, he sort of, he felt very happy actually, and he introduced me to the those VIPs. And you know how Swami introduces us, right? Professor, Professor. We had just joined the department, but Swami would call us as Professor. So I was very happy, and I was bubbling with joy, because very rarely you get a chance where you have done something good, and then, Swami is coming straight to you. I was feeling, wow, I finished donating blood. I'm so happy Swami has come to me. And then after introducing me to them, Swami asked me, this is what he said. I remember he told me this in Hindi. Swami asked me, blood diya? So I was like, oh my God, like Swami is acknowledging the great seva that I have done, wonderful seva that I have done. So with great joy, I said, yes, Swami, blood diya. Luckily, I had already given it. It is not that Swami came before the blood, he came after the blood donation. Till then, Swami's face was shining with joy, and he was so happy. He said, blood diya, with so much of concern. And the moment I said diya, I still remember that expression on Swami's face. It was an expression of great disappointment. Like when your mother or father is not happy with you, they put up a very sorrowful face. Suddenly, Swami's face was a mix of perhaps a little, not very happy, sad, let down, and he said, Nahi diya. So, with Bhagwan, you have to be very careful, because you're not talking to an ordinary human being. You're talking to the avatar himself. You're talking to, the omnipresent Lord, and therefore there has to be some meaning in what he said. He said, Nahi diya. Obviously, I can't argue saying, come on, Swami, I have given. I knew there is something beyond what I am able to understand. So I have always, in such occasions, I have just kept silent. However embarrassing it may be, I just don't open my mouth. So I just very dumbly, I folded my hands, and I was now literally sweating. I was feeling very uncomfortable. And all this is happening very, very quickly. Though I'm explaining it slowly, it happens very quickly. Swami said, Nahi diya. And I looked at him, and I tried to nod my head saying, Swami, I have actually given, perhaps trying to tell. Swami got more upset. He got more upset. He frowned at me. I remember that expression. He frowned at me. He said, Mujhe nahi diya. And he went away. It was an anti-climax. Believe me, it was an anti-climax. When we heard Swami is coming, I was so overjoyed, both Surna sir and myself. The fact that he came to the blood bank, somebody's mic is not muted. Can you please mute it? Yeah. So the fact that he's coming to the blood bank was still a matter of great joy. The fact that he spoke to me, it made me so elated. But the whole episode ended with a crash. It ended with the most unexpected note where Swami told me, Mujhe nahi diya, and he left the place. Believe me, brothers, I struggled over this for weeks and months together. because there was no direct answer. And that is another speciality of a guru, that the guru does not do any spoon feeding. Guru does not do spoon feeding because the process is of self discovery. We have to discover ourselves. He cannot make it happen. That's why Bhagwan also says an avatar is also only a guide. Nobody can help you because you and Bhagwan are one. You have to realize yourself. So Swami's all suggestions and advices would be very indirect, where you have to understand what is the truth. It took me so many weeks, so many months, and I was really wondering, does it mean that I'm supposed to give blood to Swami? Mujhe nahi diya. And incidentally, later on, I came to know Swami's blood group is also O negative. So I was wondering, does it really mean that I'm supposed to be giving blood? It didn't make any sense. And much later, with lot of introspection, self-reflection, Swami made it dawn on me. And he said, see, when you went there, I'm paraphrasing my own thoughts, that when I went to the super specialty hospital that day, I went with the feeling that, oh, Swami says do seva. So I have to do seva. And blood donation is a great seva. See, when I give blood, I'm saving one patient. The thought in my mind was just that. Swami wanted to take me beyond that thought. He said, what do you mean by saying you're saving a patient or helping a patient? Who is that patient? That patient is also a manifestation of Swami. So when I gave blood, did I give with the feeling that I am actually helping the Swami in that patient? That is what Swami wanted me to learn. He said, you may have given blood, patient ko diya, mujhe nahi diya. Swami's sentence fits so perfectly well, mujhe nahi diya. I did not give it to Swami, which means my offering of seva was not to Swami. So this is very pertinent, brothers, because I understand all of you are doing service, in this particular trust. So really, for the service to bear fruition, the feeling that I'm doing it for a child, or I'm doing it for a gentleman, or I'm doing it for a lady or a poor person, really that should not be the thought. The thought should be, Swami is in that person. Here also it is Swami. But this Swami seems to be better off than that Swami. Therefore, it is the obligation and the duty of this Swami to help that Swami. So it is actually mono-acting. Actually, it is mono-acting. Swami is only helping Swami. I mean, Swami has mentioned this even in his discourses. You will find it. Swami says, I am the giver, I am the receiver. And that is the reality. And that is the reality Swami wanted me to understand, that not only I am inside you, but I am inside the other person also. So it's not enough to have the conviction that Swami is inside me, my Guru is inside me. When I say I am Rangarajan, that I itself is God, that is not enough. When everybody else says I, when Vinod Karthik says I am Vinod Karthik, that I is also Swami. This I is also Swami. That is the second curtain that Swami removes. So the second curtain that the Guru removes is, not only is God inside you, when that God is inside you, logically, it goes to say that, it implies that that same I is in the other person also. So now my father is God, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava, Sarvam Devo Bhava. It is not only this one, everything is God. So the second curtain is, oh my God, when I do service, I am not supposed to be thinking, okay, at a gross level, I may be helping some child or, some X or Y or Z, but essentially, it is Swami. But I am also Swami. So whom am I helping? I am helping my own self. I may not be able to understand it at a concrete level, but I'm talking essentially at a subtle level, I must understand my own self. This is curtain number 2, part 2 of the picture. So Guru removed one curtain, Guru removed second curtain. Now comes the third curtain. So let me change my slide. So here comes the third curtain. Okay, so once again, I will request any one of you to acknowledge that my audio video is clear, so that I am more comfortable that things are going fine. Once you say yes, I'll proceed.
All good, sir.
Yes,
All good.
sir.
Great, thank you. So now we come to the third curtain. What is the third curtain that Swami opened for me, and I'm sure has opened in all of your lives also? Practically, this is the thing. Okay, that patient whom I gave blood, I can see Swami. Fine. Maybe next time I go and donate blood, I will keep telling myself, hey, it is Swami in him. It is Swami in him. Okay, fine. So maybe, there is a person I'm helping to cross the road, some old man. I will tell myself, Swami, I know it is actually you in him. It is you in him. So it is easy to see Swami in people whom we love, in people whom we like. So, okay, my own mother, Matru Devo Bhava. Now, obviously, because she is my mother, Pitru Devo Bhava. Can my boss be my Devo Bhava? Can my irritating colleague be my Devo Bhava? Can my enemy be my Devo Bhava? Can my competitor be my Devo Bhava? This is a practical problem. So this brings us to the part 3 of the movie. And I'll tell you one more experience how Swami taught me this lesson also. So this goes back again to my, days after I became a lecturer, and I would come back very infrequently. I would come back home to my parents because most of the time we were with Swami, and the only time Swami would go to Kodaikanal, and we were not there in the group. So at that time, I would get some free time and I would come home. And my parents were also aging, so I remember we were staying in Rajajinagar in Bangalore. And, when I would come home in the vacation, I would ask my dad, Dad, is there any help I can do for you? So I remember one particular vacation, it had so happened that he was not keeping well for quite a few months. And he was supposed to go to the, he had made some deposits in the post office, some postal, schemes and all that. And it had not been updated for a couple of months. So I asked my dad, Dad, is there any help I can do? And I was hoping he'll give me some easy job. But to my utter dismay, he pointed out this job. He said, see, you have to go to the post office and get this job done. Now, why was I so hesitant? Let me give you the background to this. There was in that post office, this was in Shankarmat, in Rajajinagar. I remember in those days, there was this guy who was at the table. Extremely irritating guy, extremely irritating. I had had several tussles with him, several fights with him, and his nature was such. He would never do any job properly, and he would shout at the top of his voice and humiliate you. And that was the last thing I wanted to do, honestly. But when I asked my father, what help you want, just see how Bhagwan, puts us right in the center of a challenge. That's exactly the job he gave me. And this time it was not just go and get some normal job done. I had to do an extraordinary job because he had not updated the records for quite a few months, which was really not in order. And therefore, to go and ask him to do this special service, that sort of, Swami would refer to them as bulldogs. They keep barking, something like that. So I was like, oh my God, Swami, what is this? And then I said, Swami, you have given me so many experiences, right? You have helped me to remove curtain one. And, I'm so convinced Swami is within me. The Guru is within me. Though I see you outside, I know you're within me. You helped me to remove curtain two. So I have to be convinced that it is Swami in the other person also. But Swami, how do I see him in you? But that is the truth. I mean, the scripture said, you have said it, and that's exactly what the creation is all about. Swami, you have to be there in him, but why are you like that? Why are you like that? So that day, I remember, and this I can never forget because I put a challenge to Swami. I literally challenged Swami. I said, Swami, I'm working so hard towards this goal, which you are, training me to remove these veils one by one. If that is also Swami, why does he react like that? Why is he so irritating? Why does he humiliate us? Swami, this is not correct. I have not done anything wrong. If I do something wrong, okay, then the Swami in him also can give it back to me. Action, reaction. But I have not done anything wrong. Why should it happen? So I remember I placed the very sincere prayer to Swami, and my house was about 20-minute walk from that post office. So as I was walking, this is some experiment you also can try out, guys. You can try it out with whomever you want. I kept telling inside myself, I said, Swami, it is you in him. It is you in him. There is nobody else. It is you in him. And Swami, today you will respond to me like Swami, because my Swami can never really be angry with me or shout at me. I kept telling this inside my mind almost like a mantra. I reached the post office. when you do these experiments, you always are in doubt whether it will work or not. So it's more like, okay, there is no other alternative, so let me try it out. It's something like that. So I tried it out. But when I reached the office, I was like open. I said, okay, it may click, it may not click. If it doesn't click, it is my fate. I went there, and as expected, the same guy was sitting there. And I waited in the queue. Those days, there used to be a queue even in the post office. After some 3, 4 guys was over, my chance came. And so many people behind me, I have to be really fast. So I sort of blurted out, I said, sir, so sorry, these records are not updated. My father was not well, and so many things. All that I'm telling him, and I know that the volcano is perhaps going to erupt. But at the same time, in my mind, this very strong conviction was there that, Swami, is it not you even in this person? You will not believe it. And this has again been another turning point in my life. The same guy who was such an irritant and who used to blow his top on others, and he did that even to people in front of me. When I presented this to him, he said, oh, is it so, sir? He was so kind. He was so polite. And he said, you please don't worry. Now there are a couple of people standing behind you. I don't want to delay their work. Why don't you just sit down here? The moment this is over, I'll finish all your work. I was stunned. I was stunned. And this was again a turning point in my life. It works. It definitely works, provided we do it with sincere faith. Believe it or not, the guy, attended to 2, 3 more people, and then there was a lull in the queue. He took all those passbooks of my dad, updated all the records, and when he gave it back to me, there was a smile on his face. I came back bubbling with so much of elation and joy. I said, wow, Swami, this has worked. And I could hear sort of Swami telling within me, oh fool, it will work. It's just your faith, because you are not seeing the world as it ought to be seen. You're seeing the world full of enemies, full of oppositions, full of people you don't like. You think people are going to pounce on you, but you don't realize that it is all Bhagwan only. This is the third veil, and that is why I've shown you the slide where we see Swami in the cosmos. The whole of creation is nothing but Swami only. Creation is made up of Swami. That is why Swami gives the example of a cloth piece. He takes a kerchief and he says, see, what is this kerchief? It is nothing but warp and woof. And what is there in the warp and woof? It is cotton. So essentially, the kerchief is made up of cotton. So is it wrong to say that the kerchief is actually cotton? Not wrong. Same way Swami says, essentially, the creation is made up of God stuff. There is only God. That is Swami. It is not that Swami is in the creation. The creation itself is a manifestation of the cosmic energy. That is Swami. This is the third curtain that the Guru unveils, right? So nice, the journey with the Guru. So once the Guru comes into our life, first he says, hey, look inside, I am in you. Then he says, look inside the other people, I am in them also. And then he says, don't have fear, there is nothing like an enemy. I am inside everybody in this world, and therefore have no fear, have faith in me, move along. So long as you do what is dharmic, nothing can come wrong to you. I will come and I will create problems for you only if you do something adharmic. So long as you do the righteous thing, I am with you. Because you and I are one, and we both have to march along this path of dharma. So long as we are doing our duty, so long as we are doing our dharma, nothing in this world can come in our way. And if at all some challenges come, that is also because of his wisdom, right? Bhagwan knows what is good for us, and therefore sometimes just to teach us, some challenges may come. Fine. Now, having said all this, this looks very philosophical. I'm sure many of you may be feeling, what is Rangarajan sir telling? This is all high Vedanta. But I firmly believe this is the only role with which an avatar comes. And this is the Guru's role. So if you do not know this Guru's role, then what is the purpose of Guru Purnima? Guru Purnima is nothing but this. But why is it that this is not clear? Why is it that it is such a big challenge? It's not a cakewalk. It is because, some sort of inexplicable factor, right from ancient times. Inexplicable factor, they called it Maya. They called it illusion. I'm sure you all are seeing this picture. Some of you may be seeing these diagrams rotating, right? Actually, they are not rotating. So it is lying. So same way, our senses are also lying to us. The moment you see this picture, I hope you all can see this picture. I'm sure at least for a few seconds, some of you would have thought this is a snake, right? But on closer inspection, I'm sure you will all know that it is only a rope which looks like a snake. This is one of the most profound examples given in the Upanishads about our problem in creation. When we see creation, it is like looking at the rope when the light is not adequate, and we feel the rope is a snake, and therefore all the fears we have about a snake comes into us, our senses also react accordingly. This lasts for a few seconds until you bring some light, and then you see, oh my God, it is a rope. Instantly the fear vanishes. Instantly the fear vanishes. Same problem with us unless this light comes. What is this light? Vyasa Purnima. Purnima. Right? The full moon stands for light. When this illumination comes, we see this whole creation as Swami only. So if X is Swami, Y is Swami, Z is Swami, my boss is Swami, my mother is Swami, my sister is Swami, my wife is Swami, my children are Swami, right? My colleagues are Swami, the receptionist in the mall is Swami, everybody is Swami. Where is the fear? Where is the fear? That's why Bhagavan says Advaita Darshanam Jnanam, and he would say Abhaya. Swami used to give the meaning of Abhaya. Abhaya Hasta. Abhaya means no fear. When will no fear come? Advaita Darshan. Only when we understand, when I say see Swami, it's not that you will start seeing an orange robe everywhere or you'll see some light everywhere. Everybody will appear as they are. Vinod will appear as he is, Prakash will appear as he is, Rangarajan will appear as he is. Nothing is going to change. But essentially, it is Swami. Essentially, it is Swami. Right? Therefore, we must get over the fear that this is a snake. The world is not a snake. It's actually Swami. Now, can such a thing happen? Therefore, again, Bhagwan goes out of his way to logically, explain to us. He says, yes, it is possible that though this is all Swami, still you're not able to understand because there is a veil, there is a curtain of, this inexplicable factor. Just like in mathematics, when you don't know a value, we call it a variable X. So the ancients called this Maya. So Swami said, Maya is also part of Swami only. And it covers Swami for some unknown reason. Don't ask why, only ask how to remove it. There is no meaning in discussing why does it cover Swami? Why did this creation happen? Swami says, waste of time. You remove it and the questions will disappear. And then Swami gives all these examples. He says, see, clouds emanate from the sun, but they cover the sun itself. The moss emanates from the water in the second picture, but the same moss covers the water itself. The cataract comes from our own eye. It is subsumed in the eye. It comes from the eye and covers the eye itself. And I put a more contemporary example. I don't know how many of you can make out what the fourth picture is. It is our screensaver, right? The screensaver comes from within the mobile only. It is coming from an app, but it covers the mobile screen itself, right? Therefore, this is Maya. And the Guru precisely teaches us how to remove this veil of ignorance. That is the only goal with which the avatar comes. That is our only goal in life. All other things we do, coming under the category of karma, bhakti, jnana, are all targeted towards this only one thing, which is to see Swami everywhere, everywhere. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. So how to do that? So one more example and then I'll move forward. All of you can see this bowl of water, pot of water, and we can see the reflection of the sun in that, right? So very simple question. Now I am seeing the reflection of the sun in that, but I want to see the real sun. Swami says, we are all seeing the reflection of Swami in creation. Swami, then how do I see you? So let us apply this to this analogy. I am seeing the reflection of the sun in the bowl or in the pot of water. So Swami, what should I do to see you? I'm sure all of you are guessing the answer in your mind very well. You just have to turn 180 degrees around and see the. That's exactly what we have to do. We have to turn our mind 180 degrees inside. So though we may work outside, though the general tendency of the mind is outward, we must spend a few minutes every day, or until a point comes where you can do both parallelly, then you don't need to spend time separately for it. But till then, you need to spend some time separately in silent sitting. Turn your mind inwards to understand that the real sun is inside, hidden inside. It is manifesting. What we are seeing is its light, but the real sun is inside. So let me, come to my closure of this talk, because it's 9:25. So let me conclude with an extremely profound experience I had. And, this was somewhere in the 90s. One evening, the Mudanhalli teachers had come to Prashanti Nilayam. And Swami called all of them to the bhajan hall, and he said, I will talk to you there. It was like an interview, but not in the interview room, in the bhajan hall. For some reason, Swami said, where are the Parthi hostel teachers? Out of the blue. So we were there, and Swami said, you also join me. What a nice chance. So we also got in. It was a small group of just 15 to 20 people. And Swami sat in the bhajan hall throne. The doors of the bhajan hall were closed, and Swami started giving a discourse. And I remember he talked about Mahabharata, right? And then this was the scene where Krishna is making the last attempt to prevent the war. As you all know the story very well, he goes as an ambassador, it doesn't work, right? Duryodhana insults him, and finally when he's coming out, he asks Karna, Karna, can you come with me for some distance? I have to tell you something very important. So Karna agrees, and then I will not go into the details of the story because you know it. He goes with Karna, and that is the time Lord Krishna reveals to Karna, Karna, because there is no other choice, I am telling you this truth. You are Kunti Putra. Don't think you are Sutaputra. You actually are the eldest son of Kunti. Karna is shocked. He's shocked. And he's dumbfounded. He says, Krishna, why are you telling me this now? Why are you telling me this now? Then Krishna says, so that at least now you will not fight with the Pandavas. Because if you fight with the Pandavas, you will be killing your own brothers. So we expected Swami to continue further from here, but suddenly Swami stopped the story. Just imagine. Suddenly Swami stopped the Mahabharata story. He looked at all of us and he said, Nir Kuda Ante. It was such a shocking statement. Swami said, all of you also like that. You are all fighting with each other. You are having hatred towards somebody, jealousy towards somebody. One day you will realize that essentially you all are only Swami. And that day you will feel so bad because it is like scratching your own skin. It is like hurting yourself. It is like creating a wound on your own body. You don't know it now. But the day this realization comes to you that everything is Swami, you will feel so bad that you hurt X, you caused problem to Y, you fought with Z, and therefore Swami says the earlier you realize this truth, it is good for you. What a great revelation it was. So time and again, time and again, time and again, though of course the Guru does many other things about our welfare at a very worldly level, he may take care of us, solve our problems, give us promotions and give us money, and he does all that. But essentially, as Swami says, I have come to give you, okay, I may give you what you want, but essentially are you asking for what I have come to give you? And what is it that Swami has come to give us? It is to remove this curtain. It is to remove this curtain. So brothers, let us all resolve that yes, we are working in our different lives, different professions, different career path. The journey of each soul is different. But one thing is constant. What is constant is the picture I have shown you. So the one thing which is constant is all of us are holding Swami's hand and we are walking this journey of life. All of us, is it not? Right? Though we are so diverse, different countries, different, of course, not different planets so far, different countries, different careers, different jobs, different lifestyles, different status in society, all that may be different. But one constant is we all are holding Swami's hand. And where is Swami? He is everywhere. So next time When we are speaking to anybody, when we are interacting with anybody, make this a mantra within yourself. He is also Swami. She is also Swami. He is also Swami. She is also Swami. Everybody is Swami. If we understand this, then the Guru will be very happy. Sandeha Nivarani, this is how Bhagavan says, I'm doing so much to make you understand this truth. So what will give me happiness? Happiness will come only when you understand this. If you don't understand this, Swami said, I'll feel very sad because I invested so much time in you. So Swami said, I'll be very happy if you understand this truth. So with these few words, I will close my talk. And I hope I have been able to communicate to you through my own journey with Swami how the role of a guru is so vital in every human being's life. And when the guru enters, he enters just to do what my first slide was all about, to remove the curtains, to show us the truth. And the truth is, Swami and we are not different. The whole of creation is a manifestation of Swami. When we understand this, there will be peace, there will be bliss, and we would have achieved the goal of our life. So, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, and let's pray that we all are able to achieve this goal. Sai Ram.
Sairam sir, thank you so much. I think absolutely wonderful to hear you again, and we've had amazing times sharing some of these in our student days also with you. So this is truly wonderful. So there are a couple of questions that have come up. So with your permission, if we could just take them, would it be fine? So
Sure, sure.
the first one is from Brother Dinesh. He refers to the experience that you just shared with respect to that post office employee. So how to live in the
Yeah.
world and not be affected by it? As in, you don't make any friends if you avoid their company. And there are so many of them in such high proportion in Kali Yuga. So how do we kind of deal with this? That's the first question.
Brother, okay, yeah, let me try and understand, Brother Dinesh. If you I think I can understand where you're coming from, but the moment this understanding comes in us, know that Swami is really there in everybody essentially, then I will not avoid anybody. See, that's why Swami says avoid bad company. That is at the very starting, that is like lower kg, upper kg lesson. Initially, yes, we should do that. But once we really start living in the presence of Swami, and we intellectually, at least to start with, intellectually appreciate the fact that Swami is there in everybody, where is bad company? There is no bad company. In fact, Swami himself says in one discourse, Rama is also Nene, Ravana Kuda Nene. Ravana is also Swami only. Swami says Hiranyakashipu is also Swami and Prahlada is also Swami. Right? Therefore, everything is Swami. So, when we slowly reach that point, which we all should really try to, then the question is not about avoiding somebody, but the question is about appreciating Swami's presence in the other person. The way the person may behave may not be appropriate, right? The way he talks may not be appropriate, but we should tell ourselves Swami can also be like that, right? Once this understanding comes, you will find the behavior of that person with you itself can change, just like the behavior of the postman with me. I didn't change the postman, but his behavior with me changed. So we are not here to change the world, but the way the world responds to me can change based on my convictions. So, Brother Dinesh, what I would request you to do is you change your convictions and your understanding. You will find the same world responding to you differently. You may not have changed the world, but the world will respond to us differently. This is my response. I hope this has clarified his question.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Second question is from Brother Parikshit, who says that again, similar to your experience with the post office person, we generally find it difficult to manage work and especially following the principles of Satya and Dharma while dealing with the government, right, which is known for corruption and red tapeism. So though Swami shows his presence and helps us to deal with many of these, I mean, as a group, we find this challenging. What is your experience and advice with respect to dealing with these people?
I totally agree, Parikshit. These challenges will be there and different challenges for different people. My set of challenges in SSSIHL may be different from your set of challenges in the corporate world. But then again, no, it's like the snake and the rope example. If you look at the snake, you will be very terrified, very horrified. Oh my God, what will happen? They'll ask me for a bribe, and if I don't give, then they'll throw me out of the job. Then what? All these fears come when you see a set of external factors, external influences in your life. But when you start convincing yourself that all this is nothing but Swami alone, I'm telling you that is the only way to sort out these challenges. And Swami will pave the path for you. Right? Though he may not change anything, the system may remain the same, the negative influences may remain the same, but he will create a very nice pathway for you. Please read Dharma Vahini. There Swami explains that if there is a dark room full of furniture kept at sixes and sevens in a very disorderly way, and now the competition is you must move from one end of the room to the other end of the room without touching any of the furniture. So how will you do it? So Swami says there are two ways. One is you will correct all the furniture, shift it to both sides so that there is a royal pathway in between, and then you will walk in between. This is like you changing the whole world. The other way is don't go to change the world. Put on the light in the room. If the light is put on, you will be able to navigate yourself perfectly well between all the disorderly furniture. And Swami says that light is wisdom. So pray to Swami, Swami, please give me that wisdom, please give me that clarity. Let me look at others, not at others, but as your reflections. So the guy in the government chair sitting over there and creating a ruckus for me is also Swami. My boss who is making me have restless nights is also Swami. Then ask yourself, Swami, why are you doing this? So there are two things which can happen. One is he may give you an answer saying, this is why I'm doing this, it's for your good. Maybe it is for my own training, maybe it is to correct me, maybe it is to help me to overcome some of my own negative habits. Or the second thing that can happen is when this realization dawns, the behavior of your boss towards you or the behavior of that government officer towards you itself may change. Now, this is something you have to test it out. In my life, it has 100% worked. Honestly, I was just sharing with Vinod. When I came here, I thought I will use the college internet. And suddenly I found the net was not working. And for a moment, I was taken aback. I said, Swami, I have committed to this. What will I do? My modem is not enough. And then I was laughing at myself. I said, I'm giving a talk about everything is Swami. And why am I again getting frightened? So all this is Swami. So this geo modem which I have is also Swami. So I prayed to Swami, Swami, you make it work. The broadband has to work. That is your headache. I'm giving a talk. I'm going to talk about you. So you make the laptop work, you make the internet work, and he has made it work. Because often it has never worked for me. There has always been some problem with this modem. So why I'm saying is, these are I feel most practical. You have to try it out. You have to try it out in your day-to-day life. This is not meant for some post-retirement realization. This is meant for our day-to-day challenges. You have to try it out. Have the conviction that Swami is in the other person. When you're going to that person, feel very, very strongly that Swami, though I'm seeing a human being sitting in front, the force that animates that body is also you. The force that is beating the heart of that person is also you. The thoughts in that person's mind is also you. So please come to me favorably. Please come to me favorably, and you will find your interpersonal relationships can completely change. It can become very, very positive when we start living in His presence. I hope I have answered your question, Parikshit. Sairam.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
And please do tell me if you find my answers are impractical, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Uh, Sir, definitely, sir. Whatever you said, I mean, you experienced that with the post office, so definitely you're speaking from your own experience. So,
And there are many people with whom I've shared this. They have tried and it has also worked. So you have to actually try it out to make it work.
I, I mean, I think we still go back. bits of experience that based on it would be wonderful for sharing all of this with us, and certainly recall those conversations as part of the awareness classes also, which we used to have, and with you and G Venkatraman sir and others respected elders. So it was definitely something which has been valuable. We also take this opportunity, I think, to thank our parents and all teachers like each one of you, sir, on this occasion of Guru Purnima. I think anything that any of us from the university has been able to do, however insignificantly small it may be, it has all been as a result of Swami's grace and the support and guidance of so many amazing teachers like you. So I think we're very, very grateful to Swami for that fantastic opportunity, and we continue to be inspired by each one of you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Vinod, for this very nice opportunity. It's always nice to reflect on Swami and our experiences. So I would just leave the platform today by, sort of appealing to all of us that henceforth, when we say Guru, everything around us is our Guru. That is what Dakshinamurti also said, right? So now we will not limit it only to Swami or only to parents or only to teachers, but every person, every being in our life is teaching us something. They have been placed in that position very specifically by Bhagwan for a particular reason. And it is the same Swami who is working through all of them. So we bow down to all the Gurus in our life. Sairam, Vinod. Sairam, have I lost you? Connection.
Sir, I think Vinod is just
Vinod is,
reconnecting.
okay. Let's wait for that. Let's wait for Vinod.
You're able to hear me now, Sairam sir?
Yes, Vinod, I can hear you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was just saying that thank you so much. I mean, all your interactions we fondly recall, and it was an absolutely wonderful session today. We were taken back to our days as part of the awareness classes, and I think on this auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima, it's only befitting that we also convey our gratitude to teachers like each one of you who've helped to shape us and mold us. Yeah, that is what has certainly enabled us to do any little good, that has been coming out. So I think each one of you has been instrumental in guiding us, and very, very grateful to all the amazing teachers like you all whom we could meet. Thanks to Swami for that. And this has been absolutely fantastic, sir. Thank you once again for taking time off from your busy schedule.
Thanks, Sairam, to all of you, and a very happy Guru Purnima, and lots of love to all of you. Sairam.
Thank you, sir. So we usually close with Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu.
Let's do
And
that.
we would like, it will be only befitting if you lead the same, sir. Samasta Loka Om Shanti and Jai Bol.
Okay, sure. You want me to lead that? Okay.
Yes, sir.
समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति शांति शांति। जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
Thank you again, sir.
Thank you again.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, sir.
Jai Sai Ram. Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, sir.
Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, sir. Wonderful.
So many known faces. Actually, I couldn't talk to each one of you, but very nice to see all of you here. Great.
A real guru, sir. Thank you.
Sai Ram, sir.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Sai Ram. Sai Ram, sir. Sai Ram. Oh, so many elderly people. Sai Ram, sir. Sai Ram to all of you.
Sai Ram, sir. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Believe.
Hi, Sandeep. That's
Sairam,
Sandeep,
sir.
right?
How are you, sir?
Hi. I'm fine. How are you? Nice
Fine,
to
sir.
see you.
Yes, sir. It was really nice to hearing you and seeing you. It was really nice, sir.
Great, great. It's lovely connecting, always wonderful.
Sir, my
It's
daughter
been a
wants to say
long
hi
time.
to you, sir.
Please. Hello, Sairam. What's your good
Sairam,
name? What's your good name?
Sai Sharayu.
Very nice, very nice. Study well, do well. Wish you all the best in your life.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye.
Sairam, sir.